Oh, what's up GameLeap? This is the gist, and in today's upload we're going to be talking about the 15 best top laners for patch 12.1, and there are some champions, to be honest, you need to be playing for free LP in the next 10 days or so. So stick around for the whole video to know who these champions are. You'll also get the room page, the builds, all that juicy stuff, so you can go out and dominate on the Rift. Now to master any of these champions, or even the role itself, which to be honest is more important, then make sure to check out the GameLeap website linked in the description and comment section. For the best challenger players and coaches in the world, we upload up to 20 videos a week. That's for you. So by signing up, you get exclusive access to all of this free content, guides, courses, vulnerable analyses, everything. You name it, we have it on our website, so check it out, and let's get into this countdown. Now coming in at number 15 is the low elo nightmare Garen himself. And to be honest, not much has really changed for Garen here. There weren't really that many changes to the top lane. So if you're still playing Garen, maxing your E, getting a mortal reminder after your Stridebreaker purchase, look at this, a 60% win rate in Platinum and above. Dear me, that's almost 3,500 games of data from 12.1 alone. So if that doesn't go to show how good Garen is at the moment, I don't know what will. And another important point to note here is that teleport because of the change, right? So now, before 14 minutes, you can only TP to your tower. Now it does sound annoying for top laners, but here's the gist of it. What it's going to mean is that top lane is more of an island. So really the 1v1 becomes even more important here. So by running Ignite instead of teleport, look at this, almost 10,000 games over a 53% win rate running Ignite. TP just has less value now because of the change. So during the laning phase and in the late game, even though Ignite might not be as useful in terms of the team fight situation as teleport, it's still so good in the 1v1. So as long as you're sticking to the side lane and dueling it out with the enemy top lane or whoever's split pushing against you, you are going to have a lot of success on Garen. But beating the Gaz to number 14 on this countdown, this is Susan, who is another champion like Garen who just loves playing in low elo, but to be honest, even in high elo, Nasus is a very solid pick. So with this fleet footwork setup, which people have been running for ages now, it gives you a lot of sustain, the movement speed is really useful, and not just for the laning phase. Once you get out of the laning phase and actually hit your stride in the late game, the movement speed means, with your Wither, no champion is going to escape. And a bit like Garen, who's now running Ignite, teleport is kind of moving out of favor for most top laners. So during the laning phase running Flash and Ghost, I know some Nasus players were running this beforehand, but it's now the best setup in terms of your summoner spells. The Ghost becomes really good in the late game, and with fleet footwork, the movement speed with your Wither, which is going to lock the enemy champions in place. This means you'll be getting multiple Spellblade passes off with Divine Sunderer and going Frozen Heart because most champions are going to be attack speed based in the top lane these days because of how good lethal tempo is, and with 80 carries going down the same route, a very nice core item setup. So Nasus comes in at number 14, but beating him to number 13 on the countdown, this is Jax, who is a lot stronger than Nasus during the laning phase, but scales just as hard. With lethal tempo, the attack speed you get from this, and then with your passive, it makes it too much to deal with. This is why you don't have to go attack speed in your minor runes. So 2 adaptive 4 is very important, and also in terms of your summoner spells here, what's kind of interesting is going TP with Ignite. It looks kind of toxic, but as Jax, you don't really need your flash, because against top lane champions, most of them are going to be melee champions. So gap closing to them, all you need is your leap strike, and just like Nasus getting Divine Sunderer and then Blade of the Ruined King, so unlike Nasus here, this is really important because Bork is going to give you the tank shred. So for top lane champions, even bruisers who build HP, so via their mythic item or Steris Gauge, they're going to have HP in their kit. So Blade of the Ruined King is going to allow you to shred them and works really well with lethal tempo and of course your attack speed. So Jax is another champion you guys should consider for 12.1, but beating Jax to number 12 on the countdown is one of the best counters to Jax, and to be honest, any melee fighter bruiser champion in the top lane, and this is Quinn. Now for Quinn, this patch kind of annoying because shield bow has been nerfed, Wit's End has been nerfed, so shield bow, the attack damage going down, and also the shield being smaller. This is kind of meaningful because if you do get jumped on, you're going to be more killable. But here's the thing, getting jumped on for Quinn in the top lane is kind of what you want because all you have to do is press your E, detach yourself from that champion, and you then just kill them. And as far as the Wit's End nerfs, these don't really mean that much. The item is still going to be very gold efficient and very good, but maybe one reason why Quinn isn't higher on this countdown is because of the TP change itself, which might sound weird, but here's the thing, because you're one of the OG Ignite users, you know, even before this patch, Quinns were running Ignite, but because of the teleport change, lots of other champions now buffing their laning phase because they're not running a summoner spell that helps them in the 1v1. So it's a little bit harder to win lane now, but to be honest, still more than achievable, and once you do, because you're ultimate roaming around the map when other champions just have TP, which is worse now in the first 14 minutes, Quinn can still snowball as hard as ever. But beating Quinn to number 11 on the countdown, guys, this is Viktor. Now of course you can play Viktor in the mid lane, but to be honest, in the top lane, you can have some really free matchups sometimes, especially if the enemy team locks in some sort of tank, because these champions don't have the biggest kill threat during the laning phase, and because you'll probably outscale them, it's a super free lane. Even if you are against a bruiser, the first strike is going to allow you to scale via the gold, so he also has to be in consideration for the top lane. But starting off the top 10, we have a champion who can dumpster Viktor in this lane, and a lot of other squishy champions, and this is Irelia, because of her amazing amazing gap closing ability and quick stacking potential. And the shield burn nerf doesn't really help our cause, but it's so small anyway, so who cares? But as far as your rune page goes, I just want to point something out here. Lots of Irelias might still go lethal tempo. Conqueror is for sure the best option here, because the stacking is now 5 seconds, and then going presence of mind, which sorts out all your mana issues, taking alacrity and attack speed in your mana runes. So we have all the attack speed we need from these other runes rather than going the actual keystone lethal tempo. Conqueror is still giving you an insane amount of damage and healing when you have it stacked, and then taking bone plating unflinching makes sense of the top lane bruiser matchups. Just make sure you ban Tryndamere. Now ahead of Irelia coming in at number 9 is a champion who would probably actually dumpster Irelia a lot of the bruisers on this list, and this is Teemo. And what is more annoying than a blinding dart Teemo? Let's be real. Because with Nash's Tooth, Riftmaker, Teemo does a heck of a lot of damage, and with press the attack can do a lot of damage quickly. He's very annoying during the lane if you are a melee champion, and even out of lane he scales extremely well, and running into one of his mushrooms, you're probably going to lose half your HP. So if you really want to tilt the enemy top laner and watch them squirm, lock in Teemo for 12.1. Now one champion who Teemo would also love to play against is beating him to number 8 on this countdown, which might not make much sense, but for lethal tempo Tryndamere, he is just one of the scariest matches to play against, because one mistake he's going to chase you down, kill you, and take over a game. And one of the big reasons why I love Tryndamere is because he's so good into Irelia. This is one of the most picked champions, so if you ever see Irelia locked in on the enemy team, please pick Tryndamere and ruin her day. And thankfully, because lethal tempo is still giving you 13% attack speed for each stack, this is huge for an auto attack champion like Tryndamere, because all his damage does come from his auto attacks, let's be honest. So once you get to Berserker Screeds, which should always be your first item, this is one of the best early game power spikes on the Rift, and because you're going to keep doing more and more damage as the game progresses, it can turn into a very disgusting lane very quickly if you do manage to get yourself a lead. But maybe one champion who has a bit to say about this is Kench. And for Tahm, because of the changes to Force of Nature which have come in, so if you're playing against a lot of AP on the enemy team, Force of Nature, because the stacking is now lasting an extra 2 seconds and the magic resist is up 5%, very nice indeed. But to be honest, even if you're not building Force of Nature, this champion is just so innately strong still. With Frostfire Gauntlet as your mythic item, 2800 gold, very cheap compared to other mythics in the top lane, and when you do get Thormail against lots of these AD bruisers and auto attackers in the top lane, which is still popular because lethal tempo is still very good, Tahm is still having a lot of success, and let's be honest, most people are probably going to admit that Tahm is the most annoying champion just because of how good he is. But beating Tahm Kench to number 6 on this countdown is a champion similar to Nasus and Jax who loves building Divine Sundra, and this is Camille. And it wasn't long ago when Camille was the number 1 top laner for patches on end, but it's really changed because of the late season 11 nerfs that came in, and the top lane meta with lethal tempo, it's kind of changed a little bit. But still, Camille is one of the premier picks because you don't really need flash, ignite, teleport, still the way to go. Gives you the kill threat you need during the lane and also the playmaking potential, even if teleport is nerfed in the first 14 minutes to make plays elsewhere. And we all know by now that once you do get your Divine Sundra spike 5 points in your queue, you are going to be half healthing anyone you play against in the top lane, particularly those who are going to be building some HP. So if you see the enemy champion disrespecting you by blind picking a tank, please just pick Camille, and there is a very good chance you win that game. But beating Camille to number 5 on this countdown is a champion who packs one of the biggest punches in the early game, and this of course is lethal tempo Trundle, who is the strongest level 1 champion in the top lane. So if you have no patience or your mum's going to get home in 10 minutes and ask you to help with the shopping, Trundle is the champion to pick because you can end game so quickly. With lethal tempo, just like I said for Tryndamere, 13% attack speed, very nice, and your Q counts as a stack, so stacking this is super easy. Now with Trinity Force, because of the attack speed and also the split pushing power it now gives you, it is the best mythic item. If you do manage to get a lead, this is going to snowball you out of control. So Trundle for sure, with Ignite of course, is one of the deadliest early game champions, but one champion who might not mind playing against Trundle because you don't have to go into melee range and you will definitely outscale him. This is Kayle coming in at number 4, and just like Viktor, you can pick Kayle in the mid lane, but in the top lane, there are some pretty free matchups, and to be honest, can sometimes be safer than the mid lane, because in the mid lane, you might be running into assassins or champions who can one-shot you very quickly, whereas in the top lane, there's more dueling going on, and when you're running press the attack, lots of people actually underestimate Kayle's trading potential. So this is going to allow you to survive the early laning phase, get your Nash's 2 spike, and then scale into a game and take over, like we all know Kayle can. Now, starting off the top 3 of this countdown, we have Ergot coming in as the bronze medalist, and for the GOT in 12.1, it's going to be another prolific patch in terms of wins because he is just so strong. And one of the main reasons for this is the interaction that's still in the game between your Purge, which you are still maxing first, your W, and the Cleave passive in Titanic Hydra, because your shots are going to proc Titanic Hydra's Cleave passive. But to be honest, the most popular build now is to actually proceed Titanic with Hullbreaker. This gives you so much split pushing potential and a bunch of HP, and it makes it very hard for any champion to 1v1 you. So really, you're building these items to be a powerhouse in the split push and in the 1v1. So Ergot for another patch is certainly going to be one of the top picks you can pick in the top lane. But beating the GOT to number 2 in this countdown is another ranged champion, and this is Akshan. And just like Kayle and just like Viktor, you can play play Akshan in the mid lane, but in the top lane, to be honest, it's probably more free. This is why we're going to be maxing our Q first, because enemy champions we go against are going to be melee champions. Getting onto them and auto-attacking them is going to be super easy, so the poke we get from our Q, it's going to be even more effective. Now the shield bow nerfs, the wits end nerfs, for sure they're annoying, but to be honest, it's not going to hold you back from achieving what you want to achieve. Press the attack is still a very good keystone, and running shield bash to improve our passive, so trading potential, and then bone plating for the trading potential as well, so we don't actually get one shot. It's still a very oppressive combination here, and running ignite instead of teleport, of course, because we want to crush lane and move around the map and dominate and transfer our lead elsewhere. This is how we carry games, but beating Akshan to number 1 in this countdown, just like the mid laner's countdown. We talked about how the teleport change is really going to change the meta, but for a champion like Shen, because your ultimate is a global ultimate, you don't need to click to a tower, you can click to an allied champion who is in that fight in the thick of it, and you have an instant impact. It's not delayed, there's nothing latent about it. So Shen, purely because of this, moves up to number 1. But he was still a strong champion even without this. With Sunfire Aegis, which got buffed in 11.23 and has stayed buffed, it's great with Titanic Hydra, and then as far as your runes go with Shield Bash, like Akshan, the passive, and also your ultimate, it's going to increase that shield, which is also why we're running Ultimate Hunter, so we can get more stand uniteds off. This is when we can really impact a game, and Shen is really an early game champion. He's not really that useful in the late game, so this teleport change has really opened him up to snowballing not just his own lane, but also the rest of the map. So Shen is the number 1 top laner for 12.1, and if you did enjoy the video, guys, let us know by leaving a like down below. Also leave a comment. What do you think of the countdown? Any champions you agree or disagree with? And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been the